Do you remember what it was like before we had to turn the lights off? You could have gone a lot of places, and you could have done a lot of things. But you did this. And this is what you came for. And you and 1,000 strangers felt the same chill.
Calling all wild. We're up to season 6. You need a shot of the wang. So come in and get your fix. We don't need no Delta, so go get your vax. Cause tonight we're gonna crank our wangs to max. West Wing thing. It's a West Wing thing with Josh and Dave. West Wing thing. It's a West Wing thing with Josh and Dave. West Wing thing. It's a West Wing thing with Josh and Dave.
He's already very unhappy about having to do this, I can tell.
No, that's not true. I'm just sleepy. I'm getting up.
Wait, what time is it where you are?
It's like 1:30. It's fine.
Oh, you're where we are. We're in the same place.
Yeah,
I'm in San Francisco.
Yeah, I'm waking up. I got it. I actually have to go to a birthday party after this. So just
we'll try to go long then.
Ate some breakfast. No. It's fine. Take as much time as you want.
That's what I'm saying. We'll try to go long. I was reading the subtext of your tone. Dave, do you want to?
You're listening to the West Wing thing with Josh and Dave.
And very special thanks this week to Jeff Daniels for collaborating with Diesel Boots on our theme song this week. This very special theme song. We're glad we're back. We're back, man. We're back. Broadway is back. We've got a Patreon, right? Dave, do you want to talk about a Patreon? Get people excited about that?
Yeah, you can go there and give money, and then we give money to the people who help the show and Christ organizations. What's
Christ organizations
to helping Christians in the global South?
I think some of it's going to go. I have a really dark joke. I'm not going to make. I'm not going to make. And a really
look. We have people that help us out. You know, we got a music fellow. We got researchers, and then
we have one guy. Researcher guy.
Yeah. We have staff. 7 researchers, but yeah.
And Shanti Singh is back from last week, who popped by last week to help us explain, or actually to explain to us the whole insane California recall situation. And this is a rare thing. She actually said, "I would love to come on the normal show," which normally we have to stalk people and shoot them with tranquilizer darts and tie them up and force them to watch an episode. And she volunteered. How do you feel about that decision now, Shanti?
I've already had to. This is The West Wing is like my husband's all-time guilty pleasure show. So I've already had to watch it. So I figured I might as well, or not, maybe not just bits and pieces. I haven't watched it consistently all the way through. But I feel like I might as well put that experience to good use.
Yeah, I mean, does he know? First of all, are you going to get in trouble for coming on the show? Is that the kind of thing that's?
No. He's super stoked. He was really happy when we were watching this episode that, finally you have to watch it with me. So,
is there hope? Is there hope of getting through to him? Is he?
He's pretty. I think he watches it with an ironic distance now. I mean, I don't think he's not when he originally started watching it, but now He's definitely more. I mean, he voted for Bernie 2 times.
What's his favorite character?
I think it's. Honestly, it's Bernie. No, I think it's Josh. I mean, that's.
You got a lot of work. You got a lot of work ahead.
Yeah. You're nowhere near done.
He's gonna listen to this and he's gonna be like, he's not my favorite character. It's somebody else, and I'm gonna feel really bad about myself. But I don't know.
Does he know about the thing that happened in television around 1999, where it started getting really, really good? There were shows that were good that he could watch.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably in 1999. He was like 15.
Right.
So,
all right.
I mean, he was probably picking up on it.
He could have been watching Freaks and Geeks that same week.
I know. Yeah, he could have been watching Freaks and Geeks. I don't know if he was watching it then, or maybe he got into it in college, or exactly when he
Wait, where did he go to college?
He went to, I feel so bad outing him. He went to Brown.
Oh, damn it. We were hoping Harvard. I want to find
No,
somebody.
he did not go to Harvard.
I want to find somebody who went to one of Mayor Pete's West Wing watching parties at Harvard.
Oh, he had West Wing watching parties at Harvard.
Oh yeah.
How is that in any way, shape, or form surprising to you?
No, it's not. It's not. I read that article about his poor husband. I felt so bad for him. I think like Chapo covered it, which is why I heard about it. But
where he doesn't like
you see, and everyone's super mean to him, and he's like, and his husband's like ignoring, like people who just ignoring the crap out of him, or he's like any spare time that people just has when he's not doing like transportation secretary stuff, he's like, oh, I'm gonna train for like a Ironman or something, and meanwhile his poor husband's like trying to find a gym where people won't bother him, and like, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm learning like, deep water swimming or whatever. It's like just completely neglecting the poor kid.
Yeah. And then they can't afford a 1-bedroom apartment for the $48,000 a month or whatever.
Oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I had a fun experience this week. We had to have it's not cable anymore. What did the satellite guy come out to the house and replace our box? It had died. And it was the one in my office that, I have a TV right over here, so I can do things like watch The West Wing while I'm working, not have to pay attention. And I have the box set of The West Wing sitting on my desk. And the guy comes in and he's a nice guy. And I always talk to these guys. I'm chatting. He looks over. He's like, oh, yeah, you a fan of that show? I go, no, not really. He goes, oh, you worked on it? I just didn't know. It's like, no. Because you look at my office, obviously I work in the business, it wasn't like, and it's LA, like everybody does. But I felt bad. I somehow wormed out of it. I was not about to, tell him to listen to our podcast.
Why not?
Howard.
Always be closing.
He knows where he goes. Right. Yay. Yes. Good writer. Good. Well, he was then at least. I don't know. The guy knows where I live, man.
I have a question, because I might be like too young to truly know this. I'm 30, but like,
sure.
Was Aaron Sorkin just did he just come up because he was trying to copy Mamet, or like, I honestly like,
he's definitely
really quickly back and forth, like, but I mean, he turned it into he spun it into his own thing. But I was just like, the more I think about it, like, well, was he just trying to copy David Mamet? Like,
I think there was some of that. I don't want to say copies, but I mean, Mamet was, a huge influence on it. You couldn't be a writer. You certainly couldn't be a sort of younger writer when Mamet hit and not, get knocked for a loop and want to be that guy. Or at least be that writer. Let us be clear. I know who wants to be David Mamet, but I think there's some of that there, and I think there's, like, a lot of people who really went for it hard. He sort of he seems to try to have lifted the surface a little bit without gathering any of the substance and without gathering any of the propensity for language either. Everyone talks about his great dialogue, and it's all pretty prosaic. It's not. But I think he would, at least back in those days, have considered himself one of the children of Dave. But I don't think he's written anything that come close. I don't think he's written anything come close to Heist, let alone Glengarry Glen Ross. And by the way, I love Heist. I also love Spartan. I will fight people over Spartan. Dave loves Spartan, right, Dave?
I don't like long con things.
Spartan's the action movie with Val Kilmer.
Oh yeah.
Where he has no name. And they've kidnapped the president's daughter and he's got to go get her.
I don't remember it.
Oh, it's so good. Shanti's seen it. You have not.
I saw it a really long time ago. Don't ask me to remember a lot of it, but my parents basically let me watch anything with them. And like, they would always have a very interesting taste in what they got in movies that they rented at the time, because this was, because you couldn't stream everything back then. But I watched The Usual Suspects with my dad when I was like 5. Like he just let me sit there and watch it. So I have seen a lot of movies that make it seem like I am like more experienced and worldwide than I actually am.
No, it's great. I approve heartily. Did your parents or did you watch West Wing when it was first on? Were you familiar with it, or was it not until you got to your husband that
I knew
travesty?
I knew it was on. I probably had like a few episodes in the background, but neither of my parents ever like really watched it. So it was just something that I knew that existed. Mm-hmm. And you know, I mean that was pretty much it. And until I, as an adult, that I met my husband and I actually started watching it in any form. Yeah.
And that did he? At what point in the? See, I don't know, man. These kids, you're 30. Did you guys date per se, or how did you just sort of cluster for a while and then wake up one day and you're? I don't know, how does it work anymore?
Oh, well, let's see. So I'm 30 right now. I'll be 31 soon. My husband's 37, and I just we worked at the same nightmare company. But I worked in the Boston office and he worked in the San Francisco office, and I quit and moved out here. And then obviously I didn't know anybody except for at that point, like I hadn't started organizing. So like,
so you're sort of trapped.
Yeah. I was like, I don't have anybody to hang out with here, except for my former coworkers.
And is that when he sprang the West Wing on you?
Yeah, no, that's not, he waited until we had been dating for about a month to let me know that he was that watching the West Wing. But we did have a pizza date. I think like maybe we ate pizza in this apartment where I still live, which was just his at the time. And like in this room, we sat and ate pizza and watched the West Wing, I think.
And that wasn't a warning sign.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, in hindsight, it should have been. But that was like 7 years ago. So, you know, we're still going, and we've made it work. Usually when he watches it, there's certain times where I will watch it with him, and other times like I'll just kind of like get to, anytime they talk about the Middle East or any kind of foreign policy thing, I'm just like, I start to like lose my mind, as like, you know, dyed in the wool anti-imperialist person. My family's from India. My dad and my parents are pretty anti-imperialist as well. So there's certain times when it comes to like, and I study international relations, as did my husband. So when I see stuff where it's like, you just took a map of Iran and like called it another country, like, and then like, what the fuck is Kumar? Like that's when I have to leave. It's the foreign policy stuff. Got it.
Well, unfortunately, there's a bunch of that in this one. I thought we were done with the Middle East, Dave.
Never.
Clearly never.
Well, before we get into it, can we, I have not spoken to Dave about really either of these things. It's always fun coming here because, especially this week, I'm in such a good mood. It was such a great week in terms of, I'm not even being remotely ironic. All those good things happening, and I'm waiting for Dave to tell me why they're bad things. But first, we got Proposition 22. Which I don't know, which is dumber. Shanti, you're deeply immersed in local California politics. Which is dumber, the California recall system or the California proposition system?
That's tough. I think the recall. I don't know. I don't know. It's really hard because the thing is that the recall. I feel like the recall is dumber in the sense that like, you need such a small, like we said last week, like you need such a small sliver of voters to do it. And then anybody can just get on it. It's total chaos. Yeah. Anybody can get on the ballot with a very small number of signatures compared to what it takes to get like even a ballot measure or something on there. But I don't know.
Ballot measures are pretty fucking stupid. I mean, I remember getting here, when I first got here and sort of learning about them, and I'd already heard, but the notion that, you're leaving complicated legislation up to voters. Not that voters are stupid, but one of the reasons I vote for people is so that I don't have to read complicated, 30-page pieces of legislation and understand them.
Yeah.
So we had this thing last year, Prop 22. It was vile. Companies like Uber spent a fortune convincing people it was not vile, which basically what was it? It allowed like app-based businesses, sort of gig worker businesses, to classify their employees as independent contractors, and basically fuck them out of money, fuck them out of benefits.
I mean, a great example is Vons, the supermarket out here. As soon as it passed, they had delivery drivers, and they immediately fired them all, and then hired these gig worker types.
Of
So
course.
right there, you lost 1,400 union jobs or whatever immediately.
Yeah. So a California circuit judge said it's unconstitutional this week. Where's I wrote this down? It appears.
I gotta say,
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
always thought that this part of it would be ruled unconstitutional because it seemed insane and a massive overreach on the part of the companies. I never thought it would hold up in court because
which part?
The part where you need 7/8 of the legislature to overturn it or whatever.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
just,
for
that's
sure.
just
Well,
that's not democratic at all. It's not. It's crazy.
Yeah,
The judge-
yeah.
The
go
judge
ahead.
wrote that it appears only to protect the economic interests of the network companies and having a divided, ununionized workforce, which is not a stated goal of the legislation. In other words, basically saying that the legislation is not what it appears to be, which is 9 times out of 10, that's the problem with these propositions is like, we're the proposition to give food to starving children. And then you read it carefully. It's like, it's the proposition to steal food from starving children. What's going on here?
Yeah. And then you get the dueling propositions and the poison pills. And once you get into all that stuff, there's always one about dialysis. And it's so confusing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. There's always the last several cycles, there's been one every time about dialysis. And like,
it's because there's all of these, it's really crazy, but there's all these private dialysis companies popping up.
Right.
And so they're trying to pass legislation. Other people are trying to fight it off. So it's another just shit show coming out of our fucked lack of Medicare for all system.
Yeah.
It's but that was unabashedly good news this week.
Let's hope it holds up.
And I'm sorry, and Dave and I have not discussed this either, and I can't abet, but come on, I got to be amongst friends here. Dwarfed, and credit where it's due. I wish I could say this was my own. I think it was Felix on Chapo said that actually Joe Biden thought he was pulling out of Vietnam. But however we got there, we pulled out of Afghanistan last week.
That's huge.
I can't even, I could not. I mean, here's a weird thing. Like if any of his,
wait to tell you how bad this is, but go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. If any of Biden supporters had said he's going to do this, you'd have been like, well, you're crazy. He won't. And of course they wouldn't have, because that's not why. But yeah, so Dave, well, you're going to be the voice of darkness here, because we should not have.
Oh yeah.
Tell me why we should not have pulled out of it.
Do you know how fascism happens? Do you know what the keys to fascism are? When you have an imperialist embarrassment, the right goes ape fuck. They go ape fuck. And this is literally the final mixture in the fucking nightmare recipe of here, man. Look what the right wing is doing. They're losing their fucking minds. This is Italy. This is Germany.
Democrats.
So are
Democrats, so are the media, and they're all doing. By the way, there's historical precedent.
Josh, that doesn't get rid of every single fascist expert right now is going, holy fuck, this is really bad. Not because we did it, because of the fucking small-minded right-wing dipshits who can't fucking handle how it went down, not knowing that's how it was always going to end. But it doesn't matter. An imperial embarrassment is the big fucking one. It is good we're out of Afghanistan, but now we have a long-term, very bad situation brewing. It is the worst thing.
I would argue we've already had that, and I would also argue there's a huge historical precedent for this.
We absolutely have not had anything like this. No, we have not. This is it's not the same thing as what we've had before at all.
It's not the same thing as Vietnam. It was the exact same response.
That was fucking the 60s, dipshit.
It was the 70s.
Okay, cool. We didn't have what we have. We didn't have what we have now. Do we? Do we have a Trump in office? Did we have?
We don't have a Trump in office.
Did we have literal fascist network saying that we should have a white state? It wasn't like this, Josh. This is a very bad time to have an imperial embarrassment. It just is.
I wonder. The thing is that it's not really a counterpoint, but I was thinking about all the times that Trump was accidentally Maoist third worldist by accident.
Yeah.
I talk about this a lot, where he was just like, he didn't invade Venezuela because he thought Juan Guaido was like a cuck. Like his wife showed up to the White House and she didn't have her wedding ring on. But that also makes me think, like, there's so many things. If you had just let Trump, like, if he didn't have people around him, like John Bolton, that ghoul, who are just like stopping him from.
Wait a minute. Were you about to say let Trump be Trump?
No, it was not about but
Speaking of the West Wing,
in the most, seriously, it was like, but in the most, like, in the most fucked up way, like, that was like the one, like, his saving grace was his just unilateral, like, disregard for U.S. empire, where he was like, let's pull out of NATO, it's a waste of money. Like, he was like, he thought the wildest shit. So I just kind of wonder too, and also the thing about Trump is, like, he's kind of, his messaging around this of like thing has been like, okay, he can see it as an opportunity to attack Joe Biden, which is the only thing he cares about. But then he's also kind of like flirting with like if I wanted to pull out, but like, I would have done it better or something like that.
It's his deal.
How much do people, like he would have loved to. So it's like, I just wonder how much do his fans really give a shit about like just imperial embarrassment in and of itself, whether it's not his Joe Biden's doing it.
It has nothing to do with Trump now. Now the competent fascists will take advantage of this. The guy we're worried about. This is the thing
DeSantis.
That they now. I mean, think about what they did with Benghazi. Okay, now you have a massive Benghazi that all of the media is on board with. This is
they're calling
this
for
is
Biden's
very
blood.
bad.
Yeah.
Because it's not like with Benghazi, the rest of the media was like, okay, you fucking morons. Not now. Because the media can't handle an imperial embarrassment.
Yeah, I will say that even the stuff out of CNN and NBC and MSNBC, just insane shit. I have not seen, like, I will say, like, I have not seen that. Maybe I'm just missing something, or like that level of just like turning on Biden, like that level of just like, they're so nakedly bloodthirsty that like they completely forgot how anything works, including just like the basic concept of a ceasefire or anything like that. They're just firing on all cylinders. Like they're losing their minds. So I will say that has been pretty, not shocking, but like remarkable.
there's a piece in where is it? Here we go. Popular Information, which the other day a public relations specialist told the person writing the article that TV bookers are refusing to have anyone on who supports the decision to withdraw.
Wow.
That's the mainstream media is doing that. Which, but so Dave's argument is they're right. I'm not sure what the
my argument. No, Josh, you can have a good thing that turns really fucking bad. Like
so here's okay, but here's my question: are we supposed to not have good things because it might fire up the fascists?
Great. It's the same thing as electing Macron in France. How's that going to turn out in the end? Well, everything swings.
That was never a good thing. That was not a good thing.
But everyone was acting like it was a good thing.
Well, yeah, okay. He beat it. Yes, he beat the Nazis.
He beat the Pen, but now the right is rising more. Like there are things that occur, and the way they occur, they might be good. It's good we're out of Afghanistan, but it doesn't fucking matter in the long run because this will be used in a very, very bad way. And I'm not saying it didn't have to happen. It did have to happen, but you're a fucking fool if you don't think that the right wing is going to use this like nothing they've used before.
It kind of reminds me, there was like I think when Brexit was happening, like what's his face? Yanis Varoufakis, who was like the Greek economy minister who like resigned because he wouldn't do austerity and stuff. Right. I'm reading a book of his right now. It's pretty fascinating. But like he had said something about Brexit where he was like, well, the second worst decision you made was like, because he's saying it from the perspective of a Greek guy, economy minister, but he was like, the worst decision you made was like entering the EU. Like he was saying this is British, but now that you're there, like it's even stupider to leave or something like that. Like he's just like, shouldn't have done it in the first place. I think we can probably all get on board with that. But
yeah, no, for sure. But I can't,
I don't know. This is our.
We don't know. We can see this could
Jesus
happen, but
Christ,
we can't
dude.
not do.
This is now history, man. You're talking about what happened with Mussolini. You're talking about what happened with fucking Hitler. The big imperialist embarrassment. When your country gets embarrassed, they fucking lose their goddamn minds. They lose their fucking minds.
I'm just not sure we're embarrassed.
Or are we
Jesus,
just beat
dude.
down by
They
COVID?
are.
Are people?
You're not. I'm not.
Who are
they? The fucking fascist idiots in this goddamn country are. They're losing their fucking mind. It's not about what you and I think It has nothing to fucking do with it. But a guy like Tom Cotton can fucking run this shit all the way to the White House. Some fucking dumbass idiot.
Okay, but wait, hang on. But let me push back on that. Yes. And are you somehow arguing that whichever clown they run in 2024 wasn't going to win before this?
Josh, it's like you're not understanding. What is it about when you have a recipe for fascism and one of the big keys is put in place that's not a big deal to you?
What is changing from what we're looking at in 2024 already? Was Biden going to win in 24?
No.
Was Kamala Harris going to win in 24? Was a straight up fascist going to beat them in 2040? What has changed?
This creates a worse fascist guy who can use it. That's what's changed. This puts all the pieces together, as opposed to maybe some dickhead could have won that wasn't as bad. This is literally one of those things that is very fucking bad.
It was always going to. I mean, we've talked about this too. I mean, for me, the only hope we've got right now is that Trump runs in 24, because if they don't run him, they're going to run somebody far worse. I just don't see how that's changed.
It has.
I think it'll be him or DeSantis. I think Tom Cotton's too big of a fucking nerd to be likable.
I don't think anybody in this room knows how bad the person is, because DeSantis isn't even as bad as it's going to get.
Yeah.
If Tucker Carlson runs, he wins.
It can
if
always
Tucker
get
Carlson
worse.
runs for president, he wins. It can get far worse. Remember, we had Trump. Trump came from out of nowhere.
I said Tucker was going to run 6 months ago, and you made fun of me.
No, I didn't. Information.
That's been a thing that all kinds of people have been saying.
These are recorded conversations, man. I will go back and find it.
You have to go back and find it. God.
Oh wait, yeah. Is there a way to do it without listening to the West Wing thing?
You guys sound like me and my husband. We're just like, I swear to God, you said that.
Do you record all your conversations?
It's just like saying, like, hey, we were going to have someone bad before COVID came along. Oh, we were going to have someone bad before climate change came along. Oh, we were going to have someone bad before. It's another piece of the puzzle that makes the person coming worse, because that person that can take advantage of all this shit will be a worse person.
I don't see how that person is somehow going to get worse because of this, when the person who was coming was already going to be fucking terrible. What, there's a person being created because of Afghanistan who's like Ron DeSantis
I apologize for going and listening to the fascist experts, the people who actually study this stuff. I apologize. You're right. They're wrong.
Okay. That's all I wanted to hear. I just, what are we going to do? Do we not do good things?
I don't.
It's not the point.
What's the point?
Point is we're fucked. I don't.
Look, we're hurtling to. Oh, this is so depressing. I'm in such a good mood. We're hurtling towards death and destruction. I'm like, take your good points when you can get them. We got out of Afghanistan.
Yep.
I do think it's interesting. I will say, and I'll get into this when we start talking about the episode, but that like Biden apparently made that decision completely unilaterally, because his advisors were basically telling him, no, we have to stay. Defense secretary and like all the other assorted around him.
Someone actually said today that the reason it looks so chaotic is because they didn't think he would do it.
Right.
Probably.
Like on the ground, they were like, that's not going to happen. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things, parts of the equation, but that would make sense as to why it was, the way it was, but it's always going to be that fucking way.
Can we not for 1 minute just live in a world where we've got a president who, for whatever reason, doesn't care anymore? He knows he's at the end of the road. He's whatever. Just went, fuck it, I'm going to do this thing that was actually a good thing to do.
Yeah,
for
no, I don't
1
live there,
minute.
So.
You what?
Yeah.
It's not. I don't live in that place, so no.
We all live in it right now.
I mean,
I don't. That's not who I am. It's not what I believe. It's not how I see things. So yeah, cool. We're out of Afghanistan.
Yeah, I feel
and into Venezuela, or what are we going to get into?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
oh, exactly.
I don't know.
Iran, maybe.
Like, yeah.
Wait until tomorrow when he cancels student debt and legalizes marijuana. It's gonna happen.
I'm sorry, Kumar, not Iran.
Kumar.
They just put that on the map of Iran. I'm sorry. I know I keep coming back to this, but I think about that so often. I was like, that's just Iran, man.
How awesome would it have been if
Make
he
a
had
fake
slipped and
map.
called it? What if he'd called it Kumar in one of those interviews the other day? That would have been amazing.
Yeah. Use like the Middle Earth map or like Westeros or something. I don't know. Like you can't slap it on a real country. Like you gotta make a map up. I don't know. I guess that would not work either, but
Oh, you mean just like add a piece of land?
no, when they show the map of it in that like early, I know this is an earlier season, when they show the map of it, it's just like the Persian Gulf. It's just, or it's just Iran. Like I'm like, I recognize.
Oh, did they? I don't even remember that. You mean they just changed the name?
Yeah, that's what bothers me about it. I swear, this is how I swear it was just a map of Iran. They just stuck it on there.
Well, now that Dave has admitted that he's wrong, shall we talk about the West Wing?
I actually want to talk about, we didn't bring this up last week when we talked about the election.
The recall?
We need to talk about how they're doing what they did with Clinton all over again. They made sure no one ran against Clinton.
Oh, right? Jesus Christ. Yes, I forgot this. Please tell about the text you got. Jesus Christ.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'll read it. So basically what happened was, we talked about the election, but basically it's a recall. You vote no on the recall, and then you can also pick a candidate in case he does get recalled, right? So
let's be really clear in case you missed it last week.
Part one and part two.
If the recall gets, tell me I'm wrong, Shadi, 50.1% of the votes, the governor is recalled.
I actually have a visual aid, not that
Jesus.
This is Melissa.
Yeah, she's holding up a giant list of names. If the recall passes, the person who is your choice
on this giant list,
because there's two questions: you support the recall, and then if he's recalled, even if you don't support the recall, you vote on this. Who is your second choice to be governor?
Yeah.
And if that person, the person with the most votes, that's literally it. If that person has 11% of the votes, they're our governor. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're coming into, and we're coming to a place where we've got an unpopular governor. Who very good chance is not going to be able to muster 50.1% of the votes. And what is the Democratic Party's message, Dave?
So first of all, let's say that, on the second part of that ballot, we could have had a very strong Democratic name.
Yeah.
For Democratic Party voters to vote for. And the
couldn't
person
you at least
who pushed
just have the
against,
lieutenant governor? Is that not?
Well, we'll get to that later because
Okay.
I actually have a solution. I have a solution to all this. But so on that second part, there are no big name Democrats because the Democratic Party and Newsom pushed them to not get involved.
Yeah.
And the reason they did that is because when Gray Davis was recalled and Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor, there was a bigger name Democrat on that. And they decided that was one of the reasons that they lost, which is the dumbest fucking takeaway from a movie star becoming governor that I've ever heard in my life. They're fucking dumb. Anyway, that's their excuse. I don't think that's the reality. I think the reality is that they don't want people to recall Newsom and put another Democrat in there. They just don't want him to have, because he, at the end of the day, wants to be president. So anyway, so they don't put any big Democratic names on the ballot. The biggest name is a YouTube guy
who sucks. He's a landlord YouTuber.
Of course he is, but he's still better than Elder, right? Like, fuck, I don't know. Yeah, he's a developer. He's a nightmare. So anyway, so I get this text from the Newsom people, and it's like, are you gonna vote no on the recall? And I say, first of all, fuck you. And I mean, I really told the person to fuck off. I was like, fuck you. My kid's going to school without mandatory testing and all this other shit. He's not doing fuck all for our fucking kids. Go fuck yourself. But yeah, I'm going to vote no. And then this is the response. Sounds perfect. Ballots need to be postmarked or returned by 8 p.m. on election day, but we recommend putting it in the mail ASAP. The ballot will have two parts. Question 1 asks, shall Gavin Newsom be recalled from the office of governor? And you should vote no in order to keep Governor Newsom in office. Question 2 allows voters to choose a replacement candidate, but Governor Newsom can't be part of that list. You can leave the second question blank.
Yep.
And to which I responded, you shouldn't tell people to leave the second question blank, because if he gets recalled, we end up with Elder. You guys have no idea what you're doing. I would go farther than that. They are terrible, terrible people. The Democrats are terrible terrible fucking people. And at the end of the day, they don't care, because you know what the solution to this is? Newsom steps down. The lieutenant governor becomes governor, and then Newsom can then push and say, I am going to do everything I can to change the recall system and become a hero in California. And then he can fucking run for president. But this is hubris, arrogance, and it's also who gives a shit about anybody.
How much
who is
I've seen that theory or that notion kicked around, but the response I keep hearing is that because the election is already in motion, it doesn't matter. For instance,
I'm hearing, I totally thought that was the case until literally like 2 days ago. And then someone was pulled out some clause and said, actually, no, they can't do that. Like, it's not nullified if he steps down right now. And like, nobody knows what's going on. That's the other thing is like, I was looking on Twitter, which admittedly it's Twitter, but it's like, like you can kind of tell who's like a respectable account or whatever. And there were plenty of blue checks saying like, no offense to blue checks. I wish I had one. But like, there's certain people. There were people saying, like it's simple, like he can just step down and like Kounalakis, the lieutenant governor, will become governor. Then there were other people saying that wouldn't work. There were other people saying write in Kounalakis, which actually doesn't work because she's not. You have to be a certified write-in candidate, and she didn't do that. But there were like people, like respectable people, quote unquote, like basically being like, just write in Kounalakis. Everybody write in Kounalakis. And other people were like, that doesn't work. Nobody knows what's going on. That's what it's like. And I thought what Dave just said was true until 2 days ago when I said,
I did too.
Like, someone's like, oh, no, it's not. I was like, well, what's
it's happened in other states, but all right.
It could be legally contested, which I do think is what's going to happen. Is whatever happens out of this, I could be wrong, but my theory right now is that whatever happens, whether Newsom wins or loses the recall, the other side is going to contest it. The right, because they're the right. And they just love to, when they lose an election, they're like, oh, it's fraud. But I think like even if if Newsom loses, I think there might be some kind of like legal court strategy or something to try to fight it out. It is
some where is he from, Harvard or something? Some constitutional guy was like, this is actually not constitutional. Like, this isn't democracy. And
that makes the most sense. Yes.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's not going to happen because it's going to go to the Supreme Court and they don't give a fuck. It's not a thing there's going to be no legal recourse for Democrats to overturn this. It'll go to the Supreme Court. They'll say, fuck off. Here's what you do though. The day that someone if it's Elder, the day that you don't even have to wait until he gets in office. The day that he wins, we recall him. We can get 160,000 or whatever it is signatures in 5 days. We can recall him a couple of months, a month after he gets in office. I mean, literally just fucking recall him. Like,
it's about 1 million signatures. Bullshit. We could totally get that if an insane right-wing person.
And we could literally get that in 10 fucking
then
days.
How long till the election then? Because the term is over in 2022.
Well, here's the deal. So the Secretary of State or whoever handles it is a Democrat, and they'll rush it. Okay. Unlike what they did with Newsom, which is they slow walk it. Yeah. They'll rush it because we have to play hardball with them.
Because Democrats do stuff like that, right? They're good at fighting.
It's not Democrats. It's us. Who gives a shit? Like, it's like to play the fucking game. They're going to do it. We're going to do it to them. We should literally be recalling every single fucking Republican that's in office right now. Play the fucking game. Let's just go after them the same way they're going after us. Like, fuck this shit. It's just nonsense.
I mean, I'm in San Francisco. They're trying to recall everybody right now. They're trying to recall the entire school board. They're trying to recall our district attorney. They're like, it's just, it's the right. And people are like, oh, there's no right of San Francisco. There absolutely is. There's absolutely like a teeming, like wretched hive of like next door assholes who literally think that like if they walk outside of their like, and they're doing great, right? I mean, our city is full of people. That's my job. Like, I work with people who are literally can't pay rent right now. And like, these guys literally think it's a beautiful city. I walk around San Francisco all the time. It's one of the richest cities on earth. Like, I'm not scared of homeless people, but they literally think like they see one poor person. They're like, San Francisco is descended into chaos. And like, they're a real constituency here, and they're like their second recall of the district attorney, it might make it to the ballot. Their recall to the school board might make it to the ballot. So yeah, I mean,
we have to recall them. We have to go after them the way they go after it. We have to, every single person that's a right winger that can be recalled in California, we need to put them on the defensive because they're putting all of their energy into offense against all, because it's happening here too. We need to fucking put them. We have all of the people. They don't. We have many more people. We need to fucking go after them everywhere and say, this is the game you're playing. We're going to fucking win it.
Yeah, I think that I'll say, like, as a former like Bernie staffer for California, like I think the one thing is that I'm just worried about is like fatigue, like voter fatigue, like, you know, motivating people. And then that's already showing up here too, because people aren't really motivated to keep Gavin Newsom. Well, I guess we talked about this last time.
Yeah, well, that's a huge problem. You engage with people on that, and they're just, he's done such a terrible job, and it's, you know.
When you have like infinity elections, like people just start to like really tune out. But you know, that's already kind of, that's not really like a rebuttal to you, Dave. It's just something that I think about, like in terms of what happened.
No, you're right.
But the difference is here, and here's the other thing too, is there is a important but subtle difference between you should hold your nose and vote for whoever, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, in a general election. You should vote for the lesser of two evils. There's a subtle distinction between that and you should vote to support Gavin Newsom in a recall. There, you know, and getting people who have been won over by the argument that you should not vote for the lesser of two evils to now go around and grapple with that difference. And it's like the difference is this is a coup. This is a coup. This is not an election. And but you're still dealing with people who have like already wrapped their heads around the fact that they can't stand this guy. And you know,
but let me ask you guys this. You're all gonna vote no on the recall, yes?
Yep, my ballot's already sealed.
Did any of us vote for Gavin Newsom for governor?
I did not.
No.
Yeah, I think that might be. I think that the very left might be a significant number of people who vote. I think that people like us are going to vote no, and we didn't vote for Gavin Newsom, and that's a number that no one's really taking into account.
Most DSA folks I know, like who have talked about this, like they're all voting no, and none of us voted for him. So
yeah, none of us.
It's not an official DSA position. Disclaimer. I just mean like what I've seen around. Like people are just like, yeah. I mean. Yeah,
the left is very on board voting no on this. So I think that's I don't know. It feels to me it's like a uncounted sort of variable.
I hope you're right, because I've had a lot of encounters with people on the left who have the same attitude about him that they did about, you know, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden. And
I think if you're organizing and you know how bad it is, like right now, you just don't want it to get worse. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I feel about it. Like Gavin Newsom has completely, he's torpedoed. Again, I'm not talking on behalf of my job, I'm not here on behalf of my job, but like he's torpedoed every single chance we had to pass like actual eviction protections repeatedly during this pandemic. Like he's like literally like, I want to sue him personally for emotional damages. Like, because like if he has made things like demonstrably worse. But, you know, at the same time, like everybody I know, like who's doing this work, we're like, it can always get worse. It's not going to get better.
Well, and you're not defending him. You're defending, you know, you're protecting the state from someone who doesn't even, you know, you can become governor of California right now with 11% of the vote.
Right.
My deep regrets, even though it was disheartening to see Dave admit he was wrong today, it shattered my illusions about him. But it is my deep regret that when this began, I allowed us to be talked out of running Dave.
I would have absolutely 1000% voted for you, Dave. I'm not just saying that.
You should have better than,
yeah. And the other thing was like, the whole time, I will say one other thing is that the whole time, even when you're just talking about, you know, progressive issues or like, you know, like eviction protections, et cetera, criticizing, since the recall got to the ballot, criticizing Newsom in any way, shape, or form was kind of seen as like enabling his opponents, right?
Yes.
Even when it was on timely, critical matters of, you know, life and death for people during COVID this past year. But that was the attitude, and that's also the attitude that he used to discipline his like supermajority legislature. Like, I can't, reveal those conversations. So I'm sorry that I'm being a little intentionally vague about it, but it very much was like, well, we don't want to come out and say that his policy towards renters is atrocious right now. He's not doing nearly enough that he has to do, because it's just going to look like we're kicking him in the middle of a recall. Even though, like, I'd hear a lot like, we're privately mad about it. And I was like, what does that do for people? It doesn't, nobody cares if you're privately mad about it, but
yeah,
we're going on for a while.
We're definitely in that zone again, where you can't say anything bad about a guy who, let me just say this, literally sending kids to school without enough protection during COVID, and which he's packing them into classrooms. And I mean packing them into classrooms, because California has some of those packed classrooms in the country. Packing them into classrooms and not doing things like mandating that every child takes a COVID test before school starts. That is just basic fucking science.
Oh.
So you're already starting out every school in California that had, and thank God LAUSD did on their own test ahead, but there's tons of kids in California starting school, and they're going into classrooms in which other kids have COVID. You could have stopped that. So it's shit like that where it's like, you're not allowed to criticize this guy who is hurting people, literally harming people, because he isn't doing basic shit. And he's also allowed to do it because everyone's screaming about DeSantis, who is a fucking lunatic. But that like crazy asshole Republican, combined with this recall effort, he just gets a pass on this shit. And it's really fucking evil. Anyway, vote for him.
Anyway, vote for it.
Exactly.
This is how our last conversation was like, vote for it.
Season 6, episode 3. 2004. This one's written by our old friend Eli Addy, Dave, who not so swift, this guy, or somebody. It's a terrible thing to say. We shouldn't be bagging on a writer. Shanti, Eli Addy's a guy who, before he became a TV writer, his biggest claim to fame was writing Al Gore's concession speech in the year 2000.
Interesting.
Which I maintain is not something you should put on a resume. And before you get into it, just a small note. The woman who plays the Congresswoman Link in this episode, the one who says there should be an American monarch to do all the dumb ceremonial things the president has to do, which, by the way, not a terrible idea. Played by an actress named Dae Young, whose career was kicked off in a little movie called Rock and Roll High School, which was co-directed by two friends of mine, Alan Arkish and a guy I do a much better podcast with, Joe Dante, called The Movies That Made Me, where we talk to people about happy things. But I wanted to go for, there's nothing political here. And we sort of made, we had many laughs about it last week, but let's have some more laughs at it. Leo is still lying. When this episode opens, they're all coming back from Camp David. I checked. Camp David's about it's about 30 minutes from Camp David to the White. Did you?
30 minutes.
Yeah, 30 minutes from Camp David to the White House. So it's not too bad. But they packed up their stuff.
He's also been out there all night. Like he spent the night in the shrubs.
Let's assume people don't remember or haven't heard. Leo got fired last night and went out to the woods and had a heart attack and has been laying there all night. They all packed up from Camp David. They all got their cars, their helicopters, whatever. They flew back to the White House, and they keep calling him. And there's a scene of like everybody getting back to the White House in chaos, and let's do this and let's do that because now we've got a peace plan. And I've tried Leo 47 times. Where is he? I don't know. And then they cut to the shot of just the woods, the slow tracking shot through the woods, and you hear the cell phone ringing. And I'm so bummed. Once again, they missed an opportunity. I wish it had ended on a shot of him lying there.
Yeah, just the
that
body
would have
and
been fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Do we think that the Secret Service doesn't keep track of
the chief of staff?
Also?
Can you imagine? Yeah. Chief of staff hasn't checked in like 11 hours. Sure, he's all right.
Yeah, I didn't. I was like, how did they? I'm sure somebody would have looked for him if he had.
I can't imagine a scenario of any kind of national significance in which the chief of staff has gone missing for 10 or 11 hours that really would matter, though, right? I mean, so why would that? I think you're being a little harsh on them, Dave.
Kind of seems like you're hungover after like a camping trip and like you accidentally leave one of your buddies behind because you thought they left already. That was exactly the vibe that it
right
off, like, yeah. I don't think that would happen.
By the way, that's the premise of Home Alone, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, how great if Joe Pesci and what's his name stumbled across?
They show up.
Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern, the great Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern's son is a California state senator. I got to throw that out there because
really?
Yeah, I think it's hilarious.
Is he a good one?
He's all right.
Oh, okay.
But also, wasn't he on a path?
Uh-huh.
Are we supposed to believe that he just wandered into the shrubs? Like he was on a path.
Sort of stumble around. It's an amazing sequence.
But if he was on a path and the Secret Service would be walking the paths, like they would have guys walking around doing.
Well, I don't think he could have stumbled very far. I mean, I'm willing to believe he's off the path, but I would also think that the ringing telephone would give him away.
That would definitely,
if you were looking for him.
That would definitely give away.
I feel like they would have more surveillance at Camp David, especially because there have apparently been like embarrassing incidents of like world leaders getting just like way too shit-faced there.
Oh, and like, getting forgotten though.
No, not forgotten. But just doing wild stuff. Because yeah. So I wish I was remembering the specific incident, but like apparently there's been like a lot of like excessive drunkenness from certain world leaders, etc. Like they're like they just got to keep track. I feel like there's probably like people there to keep track of any kind of shenanigans.
Well, there's also, I mean, they basically have GPSs in place on these guys or whatever, pre-GPS technology. There's no way the president of the United States could just sort of wander off and not be found instantly, even if he left his cell phone behind. This pre-cell phone technology, this exists. I'm sure the chief of staff. Yeah. It's just insane. The notion that the chief of staff to the president of the United States could, drop almost dead in the woods and no one would figure it out for a day.
And it's an easy solution. Like you could just have him go back to his room and go in the bathroom and have a heart attack with the door closed. And then you could see people going in and going, hey, oh, you're okay. And leaving. You know what I mean? I mean, at least it might be plausible that he would be in the shitter
or he could fall into some rapids.
Yeah. I like this.
There's
a lot of ways you could do this that makes sense. It's just bonkers and it's just kind of funny. And it's also really dark and grim when you realize that a couple of years later, the actor playing Leo has a massive heart attack, drops dead,
dies.
Yeah.
But remember, which is
not funny. Let's be clear, that was not funny.
No,
that was not funny.
But he's in the woods now, laying just face down, covered in shit and piss.
Yeah.
That's what the situation and open next episode.
Yeah. Are you saying animals would be eating him by now?
I'm saying there's not good things are going on. There's bugs. It's so not bad. Good.
Oh, I looked it up. I remembered Boris Yeltsin went to Camp David and at one point, like he just like rolled in his underwear asking if he could get pizza. That's what it was. That's what it
was. We had world leaders once.
He was one of the great clowns. But it's so funny. I talked to a Russian guy and his wife who were there in Russia when all that shit went down. And when he left office, Boris Yeltsin went on TV and apologized for fucking everything up. And was just like, I blew this. This is, I listened to the Americans. Like, it was just like, we don't hear about it, obviously, but it was apparently this crazy moment in Russian history.
Wow. Probably my favorite Boris.
Oh.
Yep. No, Boris and Natasha.
Boris Johnson is a pale. Natasha, yeah. Okay, fine. So let's get. So there's a weird thing here, and I want to talk about a little bit. This small subplot, and I also Charlie is apparently going to Georgetown University, right? Mm-hmm. I guess at night.
Yeah. When does he?
He's been. I think they dropped it like 3 episodes ago. They never brought it up before, and now they dropped it. He's doing like night courses,
and he's fulfilled all his requirements to graduate except one. He has not taken the swim test yet. Now, there's a couple of things going on here. First, Georgetown doesn't have such a requirement for graduation.
Why? Seriously? Are you kidding me?
I thought some university does have a swim test
They
requirement.
may, but Georgetown does not. They have not for
it's
decades.
such-
But the fact that they once did is so insane.
It's such a crazy thing to put into a TV show, knowing that it's just horseshit.
Well, yeah, it is. And then I wonder, is there something going on here? Because they never actually come out and say, they're toying with this. I thought, like, you're about to find out that, like, Charlie's going to say, I can't swim. And now they're dealing with some interesting and uncomfortable racial stereotypes. By the way, our great researcher, Brian Ciano, did some digging. He found a report from 1997 titled Buoyancy of African, Black, and European White Males. And it does turn out, Dave, that white people store more fat in our bodies. So we float better.
Jesus.
We float better.
God.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That's an actual thing?
That's the next actual thing. Yeah.
That, there, God, was it Jimmy the Greek or Al Campanis? But one guy in the 80s, a sports guy, got fired.
Oh, right. What was it?
Because he said blacks didn't float as well as whites, and that's why they weren't swimming in the Olympics. It's just so crazy. Oh, the 80s were out of their fucking mind. The more I just think about shit that happened in the 80s, the more I just cringe. Like, we were completely insane. But so you're actually going with this crazy racial stereotype, and you have
but are they? Because it turns out not to be the case. Actually, that question is left unanswered.
He can swim. He can swim.
And by the way, I can't tell you the number of times, I'm not joking, I've had black friends go, what the fuck is wrong with you? Black people can't swim. So it's like, yeah, okay, you can say that, though. I think if I'm a white guy writing a black character on my TV show, at the very least, I want to have a black writer write that.
I lied on my swim test.
What?
Actually.
How do you lie on a swim test?
They didn't give it to me. They didn't give it to me. That was it. So
it's all on paper. A swim test isn't on paper. You're lying now.
You get in the water.
I know.
You get in the water.
Exactly. So
what do you go? I'm winning? That doesn't work.
So what happened was that I this was an incredibly stupid thing to do in hindsight for a number of reasons, but I was a walk-on. Like, I did row for a while was one of the few non-white people rowing the boat in college for like a year. And like, it was like way too much. Like, after a year, I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I still like rowing boats, but anyway, I couldn't really swim really well. And I thought, like, okay, well, eventually they're going to give me a swim test and we'll figure it out if how well I do or not. I guess we'll just get to that point when we get to it. And then and it never happened. They were like, oh, do you know how to swim? And I was like, yeah. Like, and that they were like, cool. Okay. I guess they just, they figured nobody would want to join the crew team if they didn't know how to swim that well. I can swim in my life, but barely. So, but yeah, they just let me, I was on the team for like a year. Like, they just,
but I got to say, the only person in this scenario who gets hurt if something goes wrong is you.
Yeah, I know. It was dumb. I thought I could swim well enough, but in hindsight, I don't think I was like that good of a swimmer. It's not like I can't swim at all, but I'm not great at it. So.
And this is why you listen to the West Wing thing, folks.
Exactly. But so when I saw that with Charlie and his swim test or whatever, I was like, oh,
yeah, but it's like, it was just a weird thing. But then it comes to this. His actual reason for not wanting to graduate. Now, before I get into it, here's my question. He's going to night school. Yeah. You can't finish a college degree in night school, even if you did go for 4 years. He's working full time. So what? Yeah, no. And then there's weird sense of time going on in the show. Because first of all, I don't believe he could possibly do it in that amount of time. But then check out his reason for not wanting to graduate.
When I started Georgetown, the president made me promise that when I got the degree, I'd leave this job.
Why would he want you to do that?
He doesn't want me holding his jacket for the rest of my life.
What does that even mean?
He's not going to be president for the rest of his life.
That's all I could think of when he said that. It's like,
you got one more year left at this gig. Like, it's not going to hurt you to stick it out.
It's a pretty good resume.
Yeah, like you could probably go work at like freaking Goldman Sachs, like right out of the gate or whatever. Like, you're the president. Like, the president is going to recommend you for, like, you could do whatever you want. Like, what does he think? Like, he's going to be like Yeah, like he's gonna be just a jacket guy. I don't even know what he would be, like a butler. Yeah, he would be a butler.
Literally, like next season is the next presidential election, so we're at most a year away from the end of Bartlett's term. It doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense.
I will say my husband was upset at this episode.
He was.
He was, because he was like, he just the post Sorkin seasons, I think, varying quality for him.
Interesting.
And or he's kind of like he's like the writing, like it's not. Yeah, he didn't like the writing.
So he was into the more misogyny.
Yeah, he liked it better when it was much more misogynistic and all the characters talked with exactly the same voice and had the exact same opinion.
Yeah, where they all sound like one Borg that's just Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, let's get into the main thing. I've got one small thing at the end we'll get to that I think needs to go last, but the main story is so Bartlett last week we came to the end of like two-part episodes, the end of the last season, beginning of the new season, where Bartlett has solved the Middle East problem. And basically what it is, he's got this insane plan to drop thousands of American troops into Jerusalem and also with troops from other countries. Is that the deal? I mean,
I think it's just Americans, isn't it?
But you need, I guess it's just America, but you need support from the House and the UN. And this episode is all about him trying to get support from them. So Josh and Toby go to see Republican leadership to get their support. I wish I was dolloping this with you, Dave. I wish I was like you had not seen this episode and didn't know what was coming. But pretend you don't know what's coming.
Okay.
Because you're a writer.
Barely.
Well, I respect you. You got nominated for some little award. It was one of those.
Well, by my peers.
Yeah, your fellow
writers.
Half-hour funny TV show writers. Yeah. It's not like it's an Oscar. So the Dave is a WGA nominated writer for an amazing episode of Marin. I suggest you all see it if you haven't already.
It's about race.
It is. Here's the scene. Your heroes, who are the staff and the president of the United States in the White House, have solved world peace. And they've got this plan. What they need is the Republicans to vote to go along with them. It's 2004.
Okay.
Keep in mind, as much as Democrats have terrible memories of the media is trying to sell you something, the GOP is almost as fucking insane in 2004 as they are today.
Yeah.
These are not Eisenhower Republicans. These are Newt Gingrich Republicans, folks. Jerry Falwell is in full effect. So the scene demands that you have this great thing, and the Republicans are a major roadblock to you, and you have to figure out a way around them. You go to them, we've got this thing, and they're going to come back to you with their demands. Mm-hmm. Their demands need to be like, I mean, what 2004? Give me some, like what you're writing this scene. We'd be like, hey, we just need your support on this, and the Republicans would go, great. Here's what we want. Like, give me a couple things that you might in terms of bargaining. We'll give you support on this if you give us like what, outlawing abortion.
Yeah.
So,
it's something,
or approve the Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get rid of the NEA.
Yes.
I mean, these are all
that good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's drama too. Forget the politics of it. It's like, we have to do this thing and these people are crazy and they're blocking us.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So Josh and Toby go to see him. What are the Republicans' absolutely fucking insane, undoable demands in order to support this thing here? You need to hear this.
Due respect, you never thought we'd get a deal, and we did. They're going to be scraping faces off Mount Rushmore. It's a news roadblock. There's no use honking your horn.
What Josh is trying to say? Enjoy your roadblock, which will last a day, maybe two, because then the story goes to Congress and whose kids are going to serve and who's going to pay, and I don't have to honk. I'll repave the road.
If you call this meeting to talk about...
We called this meeting to talk about a tax cut.
A tax cut?
A $300 expansion of the child tax credit.
We scheduled this with Leo more than a week ago.
Well, now we have a piece to keep.
The one you made by appeasing terrorists who are going to come right back with badly wired pipe bombs?
Hey, I think badly wired's the good kind. Have you seen the deficit projections? If we do tax cuts on top of peacekeeping, we'll drown in red ink.
You're talking about an open-ended deployment with no exit strategy. We're giving you a way to grease the skids.
Help us pass a tax cut, then we'll vote on peacekeeping.
You're trying to derail the peace plan.
We're trying to help families raise their kids. Makes perfect sense in Peoria.
Peoria doesn't have a budget deficit. You expect the president to sign this?
And get us 60 Democratic votes in the House to guarantee passage and make sure Democrats can't attack us for it later.
So those crazy fucking maniacs in the Republican Party want a tax credit for children that will increase the deficit a bit. I mean, can you? It's like, I know that the Republicans are crazy, but this is wacky. This is unreal. What the fuck is going on? And they're outraged. They even, I want to play one more. They go out to tell the president about this. Listen to how they characterize the Republicans' demands.
Sorry, Republicans want a tax cut before they vote on peacekeeping. I'm surprised they didn't wear ski masks and ask for it in a brown paper bag. Apparently Leo knew about this. Okay. We haven't been able to reach him. We need this vote, sir, if it means choking down a tax credit. I think we should wait for Leo.
What?
Like, who's writing this? How?
It's so crazy.
What? And just one other thing, and then we'll get into this. This is from Fox News just a couple days ago. Okay. Actually, it's beautiful timing.
Welcome back. Well, today the Biden White House championed their expanded child tax credit payments as they continue every day to inch closer to socialism.
I immediately thought about that when I was watching it. Like, I was like, the Biden administration is expanding the child tax credit. Like, how is that the Republican?
It's the craziest thing and even back then, look, Democrats were voting for Bush's tax cuts for fucking billionaires. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. What is the fucking worldview here? It's so far.
It's really like I watched the scene and I was just like, what is even going on right now? Like, this isn't even a thing. Like they would be like, yeah, okay, cool. What's going on? What else?
That's a win-win. How is that anything but the
yeah.
Oh no. Oh, so
wait, we saw Middle East peace and we get to give a tax credit to parents who are having a hard time.
That was the other part of it that, like, because they keep talking about Peoria. And that was really funny to me.
Oh, that's where all the stupid people live, Shanti. I don't know if you've been watching the show.
And it's also like they're trying
farmers.
Rubes and farmers and stuff. And that's really funny to me too, because like I'm of South Asian descent. And Peoria is just like, my entire life, Peoria has been chock full of like, it's the Midwestern capital of Indians. Like, yeah, I have family in Peoria. Everybody does. It's like Edison. There's Edison, New Jersey. There's Peoria. There's Fremont out in the Bay Area. We all know, like, you know, there's some cities that are just like, that's where all the Indians are. Like, and it's Peoria. I've been to Peoria because, like, I have relatives in Peoria. So it was really funny to me, like, to think I was like Peoria is like little India now. You know,
I just serious. Was it in 2004?
It absolutely was. I was going there in 2004. Like, I was a kid.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of cultural disconnects going on in this episode. We'll get to a few of them in a bit, but that's hilarious.
I had to point that out. Like,
none of these
we're not stupid people anymore. We're Indians. Come on, stop. Please stop.
But none of these writers have been to Peoria. It's just, it comes from the old saying, does it play in Peoria, which happened years ago. But you know, I used to go and do the comedy club there, and there's tons of like great fucking Indian food. There's an Indian community there, and you just know it if you just fucking go there through the town once. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
There's no research that happens on this show. There's no thought. They just throw out a fucking name and they move on. It's
the Peoria. Will it play in Peoria? Comes from a novel. Oh my God, this fucking show. It's like the ghost of Sorkin is still with us because all of his cultural references were antiquated. It's from a Horatio Alger novel.
Whoa.
Sure.
Written in 1890.
Taking it way back.
Yeah. So come on, Shanti. Yeah, you can take that back because I guarantee you Peoria was not packed with Indians in 1890.
No, it definitely probably wasn't.
Don't you feel silly now?
But it was in 2004.
Jesus Christ. It's so funny.
Maybe the worst hotel experience of my life in Peoria. The first time I was doing the comedy club there, they put me up in a hotel and I wake up in the middle of the night because I'm fucking thirsty as shit. And I turn on a light and the entire floor is covered in bugs. Like it looks like the floor is moving. It was the most horrifying experience. They got me another room. You can imagine.
That's a great story. A lot of great stories this week. But But come on, what? Here's the thing. This is one of those ones where, like, if we don't figure this out, there's gonna be somebody tweeting at us 5 minutes after the episode drops, going, "You dummies! It's because ... Why the fuck are the West Wing writers positing Republicans? I don't get it. Why is it child tax credits, and why are Josh and Toby so outraged?
Well, it doesn't. It goes back to like what the other members of Congress will want. The Democrats in Congress, like it's some sort of problem with them.
No, but why would that be the thing that Republicans are? We've got them now. Now we'll pass this tax credit for children.
But Democrats wouldn't even if there was some sort of tax cut thing attached to this. Democrats in Congress would be like, "This is a huge fucking win. Great PR. We're going to do it." It would never be. I think this comes out of. I might be wrong, but Clinton and with the negotiations with Northern Ireland and Ireland and all that stuff, and the peace that was made, like the Clinton and Congress were heavily involved in that shit, and I think it's coming out of that in a way.
I don't understand how would that come out of that? How would this?
No, I'm just saying the fact that they're doing this peace thing, like it was. Oh, I see. Okay, sure. A big deal, for Clinton and.
I mean, and I get one of the main points of the West Wing is to show Republicans as extremely reasonable people you can negotiate with.
I mean, always, like, it's the craziest fucking thing that they just want a tax cut. You're right. They would be like, what are we going to do about abortion? Give me this, give me that. Like, it's just, and then the idea that they're, the argument here is the justification for the tax cut is you're going to send 20,000 kids to be peacekeepers in Palestine, so the way we even that out is giving people a $300 tax cut. Like, what in the fuck? Who is writing this? It's
what's missing shit. Too. I'm kind of surprised because it used to be they would have like Ed Begley Jr., who plays sort of the kind of a Bernie surrogate on the show. He should come up and go. And my demands are that you take down the Statue of Liberty and put up a statue of Karl Marx, and it would be like, oh, those guys are fucking crazy progressives with their fucking crazy ideas.
Well, it's the ban marriage guy.
Oh yeah, then there's the guy. Yeah, that's just I didn't even clip that because it was so nuts. They talked to this one Democrat who's gay, who's like he's like, okay, well let's ban marriage,
which is aged so poorly.
Yeah, it really did.
Oh, these gays wanting to ban marriage, like, they're so crazy.
It's always a fine idea, but yeah, it's just
I mean, I did say that to my husband. I was like, yeah, like he was sitting next to me. I was watching. I was like, yeah, let's ban marriage.
There you go. So then, who's it? Josh, or I think Josh goes to see this Democratic congressman to get him on board. And here we go.
It's crazy when we're going to need 50, 60 billion for peacekeeping. Just crazy.
I agree, Congressman, but the leadership isn't going to authorize peacekeeping without something to grease the skids.
Fine. Just go easy on the grease.
Not too much grease.
We've already got an income cutoff. What more can we do?
Put a cap on the number of kids per family at 3 or 4.
Congressman, only a tiny fraction of families has more than 4 kids.
It sends a message about social responsibility as well as fiscal.
Social and fiscal.
We prefer to leave the details to Congress.
Peacekeeping is going to explode the deficit. You should subsidize every Rube Goldberg's reproductive glands.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, but let's get to these are the Democrats being presented with the evil Republicans' plan to give tax credits to families with kids. And the good, decent Democrats' problem with that is he wants to cap it because this is basic eugenics, right? Because he doesn't want to be encouraging people to be having more kids. Is that what that seems to be what's happening? So he has no moral issue with committing thousands of troops to Jerusalem, but he doesn't want to give families with too many children money because he wants to teach them some sort of moral message.
I don't think that's eugenics. That's just normal Democratic politics.
Well, here's the weird thing. This is a couple years after, and it's funny because I had problems with this too, but it's a different context. Remember when Hillary Clinton went to China and excoriated them for their one-child policy?
Uh-huh.
It was like a big, people cheered it and everything. And I'm like, it's their country. I mean, they have a problem over there. I don't know. But it's like, these are the same people who cheered her who are now arguing that we should be putting a cap on how many children people can have.
Yeah, I tried to follow it and it was all very, and It is confusing because the Democrats and the Republicans, their beliefs in this area are both, not great. Like the Democrats are all about means testing and doing all this shit, which is sort of what this is, right? Like I don't know. It's all just so fucking stupid because I'm listening to it. I'm like, is it because the Republicans want to have a bunch of kids because they're, Christians and they want to bang out 19 kids before they can't have kids anymore? Or is it because they think that minorities have too many children and they can't afford them? Like, is it that eugenics version of things? What is the argument that is going on here?
I think they were trying to like make it like a white yokels thing.
Yeah. I agree completely. Well,
which is funny because like it's not funny, but it's weird because I typically, like you said, Dave, like I usually hear that as something of the right where they're talking about like black people, like they're having too many kids. So it just felt bizarre. Like I was like, this isn't really
and the giveaway here. Let me play. There was that line at the end which I wanted to jump into too because it's so insane.
You should subsidize every Rube Goldberg's reproductive glands.
Yeah. So there's basically what happens is how you make a baby. It's like you knock over a domino in the fallopian tube, and there's a bunch of other dominoes that come down.
No.
And then a ball like falls into like a funnel, and then like that flows down, and there's some other stuff, and then boom, that's how you end up with a baby. It's very complicated.
First of all, you're giving me hope for the younger generations, because for our listeners who don't know, but it's just a weird reference, and he gets it wrong.
He's a cartoonist, right?
Rube Goldberg was a cartoonist. Yeah, first half of the 20th century. He was an engineering student, actually, and you look him up on online if you've never seen him. His cartoons are hilarious. They're these like wildly complicated, impossible devices to accomplish simple tasks. Like if you want to think of something that you maybe remember how Pee-wee makes his breakfast in the opening of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. That is a straight up love letter to Rube Goldberg. Think of that. Or the game Mousetrap is directly, it's that kind of stuff. So what the fuck is he talking about here? Like every Rube Goldberg's reproductive system, like I think he's conflating rubes, which is an old circus term, which we still use to this day to talk about. And I think this may be why Shanti and I both got that they're talking about sort of like, dumb white people in the
Did they mean rube,
rural
like the rube, like a word for an ignorant person, or?
Yeah, I think that's maybe he meant like every rubes in
it's a totally different
reproductive design, but it's a completely different thing.
Rube Goldberg is like,
it just doesn't make any sense. But then you get to this other thing, and later on, and I don't want to get into the Turkmenistan stuff because it's so fucking stupid. There's this running joke with Josh freaking out about Turkmenistan.
But I kind of want to talk about it a little bit because it's
okay. Well, then we will in a minute.
Incredible.
But there's just one. It keeps coming up, and then at one point, Josh describes Turkmenistan as a nation of Labradors. Labradors are dogs. I have a lab mix. A nation of Labradors run by Zeppo Marx. Now,
okay, the Labradors.
Zeppo, hang on. Well, to explain the Labradors, and then I'm going to get on the. Does that make sense to you?
He's disparaging the people who are living under a brutal fucking dictatorship. Like it would
no,
be
that I get. It's like the reference though is I don't know why Labradors
because the leader. Although I don't know if he was the leader then, but the leader now, like he loves dogs, and he made a gold statue to his favorite Labrador. Like,
okay, so that's the dog reference, but run by Zeppo Marx. Do you understand?
I didn't.
Zeppo Marx was the one of the Marx. Oh, you didn't get that?
No, I know he's one of the Marx brothers, but I forgot exactly what his thing was.
It doesn't make sense. Zeppo's thing was he didn't have a thing. The other Marx brothers are like wacky, insane fucking lunatics who ran around like, and Zeppo was their normal brother who played the normal love interest in some of their early films. And it kind of dropped out because people wanted to laugh at the Marx brothers. You literally couldn't pick a more normal, benign, level-headed Marx brother than Zeppo. You're telling me a country's run by Harpo Marx or Chico, I'm deeply concerned. But Zeppo's like, that's probably, if I were going to have a Marx Brothers from my country, I would want Zeppo to be the one. Like, Eliotti's just throwing out these cultural references that he doesn't even understand.
No, he doesn't understand them, and it didn't make sense. I mean, the closest that you could say if you want to do a cultural reference, it would be Woody Allen's character from Bananas. Like,
there you go.
I mean,
Sure.
that's actually the level of insanity of the past two leaders of Turkmenistan. Like, it's like he made.
Well, the guy they're talking about here was real. All the stuff they're saying here is apparently real.
He's real. Like, it is real. I mean, that guy died, but the guy who took over after him is as crazy. And what he was saying is spot fucking on. Like, it is batshit fucking crazy. But at the same time, then he talks shit about the people, which these people are living under one of the most brutal dictatorships in the fucking world. I mean, they were boiling people in oil. Like, it's a really bad fucking place. And you call them all fucking dogs. Like, fuck off. And then, yeah, it's just, he doesn't, all they had to do was fucking look on Wikipedia, for God's sakes. Like, you would.
I didn't have that in 2004, Dave.
You don't think Wikipedia was around 2004?
In 2004, you could not just go on Wikipedia and look something up.
I don't remember.
You can Google it.
Yeah, I mean, you could Google it.
Something about that coming out of Bradley Whitford's mouth specifically, like, really just rubbed me the wrong way, because he's like the white man.
Yeah.
He just is. Like, that's literally why he was cast in Get Out, right? Like, literally.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, yes.
Because
we
it's
discussed this
like
at
Bradley
great length.
Whitford, right? And like the fact that he didn't realize that the Obama joke was a joke. Like, I would have voted for him 3 times. Like,
Yeah, that it was at his expense.
that was at his expense, and like he didn't realize that. So something about him complaining about like Turkmenistan constantly and being like, oh, they have like a melon day or something. Like, it felt like extra abrasive coming out of him.
It's actually super. Was it Donna that kept saying it? Like, it would be the equivalent of saying, you know, hey, we got the leader of North Korea's vote. Like, it is genuinely not something you should bring up. Like, they're very bad fucking people, in like really, really bad. So it is, and it was just clearly wanting to use it for comedic purposes.
It's a funny word.
It's a funny word, and the shit that the leader has done, it's genuinely just fucking crazy.
It's just it's a weird bit. It's a weird bit. It goes on too long.
It does.
But the Zeppo marks of it all just kind of really startled me.
By the way, the recent leader has a really good rap video with his grandson, if you want to check that out.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Well, let's go. Can we go to the last thing?
Yes,
You guys ready? So Leo, we've been mocking it, but people are listening to the show. They're hanging by tenterhooks. Leo survives. Don't worry, folks. He'll be back. He's in the hospital. Bartlett feels terrible now, wants to bring him back. His wife is like,
Can I ask you? I mean, we're not medical experts, but if you have a massive heart attack and you're laying in the woods all night,
it's not good. It's not good.
The odds.
They taught us about that in my first year of medical school before I dropped out. And that's not a good situation.
I mean, from what I know about massive heart attacks, you don't have a lot of time, but then the brain damage that occurs is pretty severe, right? I mean,
Yes.
And then your heart is also super fucked. So it's a very weird thing that they made him have a massive heart attack. Because I was just watching it and I was like, well, he's gone.
Yeah.
But
Shanti, you're not a doctor, are you?
No, I am not. Unfortunately,
Damn it.
my grandmother is still pretty upset that I'm not, but I work in tenants' rights and legislation.
Oh,
I know. I just thought maybe on the side or something.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah. No, don't. Sore subject with my grandparents.
Tell them not to listen to this episode. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I didn't.
They won't.
I'll delete the
I don't
reference.
think they know. I don't think they know what a podcast is. It's fine.
So Bart, he's awake now. He's been operated on. He's getting better, but it's going to be a while. But Bartlett is like so upset at having fired him and thinking that there was a direct cause and effect, which obviously there was. I mean, he fires him and then Leo goes,
yeah, he killed Leo.
Yeah, he killed Leo. He goes to see him and they have this exchange. And now it's really important that everybody understands this exchange happens in a room where they are the only two people in the room. Okay. And they're referring to a conversation they had many years ago when they were the only two people in the room.
You're not fired, Leo. You can delegate, work part-time. Bring the morphine with you for all I care.
You remember what you told me when you offered me the job?
I need you to jump off a cliff.
And I did. And I'd do it again. But you need a new chief of staff.
We came here to put the job first. Spend our lives for something that would outlast us. I just thought we'd have a longer line of credit is all. I'm gonna need that list of names.
Only one name.
And we've also been doing this thing where earlier on, Toby indicated to Josh that he thought Josh should be the chief of staff. So we're sort of building towards that revelation, which, let's be real, I mean, we can't stay in the character, but that would be a reasonable person to put up for the job, right?
Yeah. It would make sense.
So we're all sort of going, oh, it's going to go there. And then a little bit later, everyone's visiting Leo in the room, and then they all take off, and the president stops one of them.
CJ. There's something I need you to do for me.
What's that?
Jump off a cliff. We'll talk about it on the ride back.
Yes, sir.
Let's get to the small thing first. She has literally no idea what he's talking about.
Nope.
So the president just called her aside and said, I'm going to need you to jump off a cliff, and I'll talk to you about it later. And she goes, okay. And she walks away.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah.
Does that?
No, that's not I would be like, oh, he wants me to commit career suicide. Like he's.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a
Are you, did that read?
Do I walk
how did that
away?
read to you, Shanti? No, I'm asking our guest if she read it differently.
I didn't really. Yeah, I don't know. I think it seemed like they spent that whole episode trying to like, also just the way that like Josh and Toby like bungled everything. They were they were kind of trying to like quickly set it up. Like, it's like, you can't trust these two. Like,
oh, interesting. Okay.
I don't know. That's how I thought about it.
But then beyond that, beyond the fact that it's just a bizarre conversation, it's one of those things. It's like when you're writing quickly or badly, you make reference to things that the audience knows, the characters don't, and it's like, she would have no idea what he's talking about. But then beyond that, she is the, I don't know. I don't pay a lot of attention to the show. She's the press secretary, I think, right?
Yeah.
And maybe your husband could help us here. I don't mean to demean. I mean,
no, go ahead.
That's a job with a completely different skill set than say.
It is. It totally is.
Advisor to the president of the United States. Yeah. One is you got to be able to handle. You got to be able to talk quickly on your feet. You got to be able to process information that's fed to you to make it sound like it's coming out of your own mouth. All kinds of things. Yeah. It's not about delegating authority. It's not about solving complicated policy problems. Why the fuck would the president? Why would Leo? And actually, I've been wanting to ask this question all day, and you may have answered it for me, Dave. Although I don't think you did. You said you're lying there in the woods. After a heart attack, isn't there brain damage going on? So let's go. Okay, that's why Leo thinks CJ would be the perfect person to replace him because his brain is half gone now. But why is Bartlett going? Oh, good idea. Like where?
There's nothing about it that makes sense. It's the craziest, dumbest, weirdest. It's just like a twist just for the sake of doing a twist,
Yeah, press secretaries never. I can't think of an example of a press secretary becoming chief of staff. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think
You're
ever.
Not.
Yeah,
you're not.
I'm trying to like rack my brain to like think about it, and also like it's interesting too in that episode. Like she floats like a policy idea, and she's trying to like get Josh to like lay off the donuts, and all this stuff. Where they're really like, I feel like they're trying to set it up to make that like she's the only like. That she's the natural candidate, but they like kind of like rush it in this really bizarre, in these different bizarre ways. Like she'll just like she'll suggest the policy idea that like Toby and Josh didn't think about, or like, or she's the junk food mom, which I thought was so weird.
It's a weird plot.
Like she's she's just trying to get him to not eat donuts, and I'm like, it's not. I mean,
she comes into a meeting and takes his donuts away and tells everyone
or something. Yeah. I was like, what the hell was that
he's got
for?
diabetes.
That was so bizarre. I had no idea what that was about at all.
But here's my question: is it, because I can only come up with two explanations. One is they were trying to counter, because I know there was some criticism in the day, just not as much as there should have been. And Sorkin has been gone now for the entire season. Were they trying to counter the criticisms of the show that it was misogynistic?
Yes.
Or because Allison Janney was a very popular character, was this some sort of negotiation tactic? Which always boggles my mind. I know for a fact, I know we all loved George Takei. At one point, he made part of his coming back for the Star Trek movies deal was about the money. He wanted Sulu to get a promotion. Like, dude, you're still in front of the camera. I'd be asking for the money. What? Yeah, but that's a terrible.
No, it's to me, I thought it was a response to the misogyny shit, but it doesn't make any sense, and it's just dumb. Like I don't like
the only time I could think of anything similar was a few years back. I think Alfred Molina on Law and Order, like he was a DA. Remember? And then they came back the next season, and now he was a detective.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think it's because he went, I'm tired of this. I want to play a detective. And they're like, all right. So his character becomes.
Alfred Molina rules, though. Let that man do whatever he wants.
I think Allison Janney's a pretty great actress too. But I agree. He
is. That was my Allison Janney's a great actress. There was some cheesy lines they gave like Stockard Channing, and I was just like, this is Stockard motherfucking Channing. Like, give her some good lines. Like, what? Yeah, you know. Like, and even with the lines she had, like, she acted the shit out of it. You know.
Yeah. But some of this does feel like they're trying, because they had a thing last week where they're negotiating for Middle Eastern peace at Camp David, and for some reason, and I would say this, thank you, if it were the president were a woman and it was her husband, for some reason the first lady is in this meeting and she's offering suggestions to the Israeli prime minister, like, hey, have you tried this? You're like, how does that happen? Hey, and here's, I guess post-Trump, it's like, and here's Jared. You know what? I take it all back.
Yeah, right. Like your kids are in the doing.
We now live in a world where Jared spent 4 years trying to solve Middle Eastern peace, and I'm complaining.
Yeah, like you wouldn't see like Doug Emhoff. Like Doug Emhoff is just there to chill out, and he knows it. And like I appreciate that.
Yeah.
He just seems like he's chilling up there. He's the only one who seems like he's having an okay time.
I don't know. I'm mystified. I don't know where this goes. I was not prepared for it to come. I know a few things about what's coming. We haven't watched the show before, Shanti. We both bailed out after at most one season. So this is all new and fresh to us. But is she going to be the chief of staff for a while?
She must be, unless she turns it down. Like that's what they have to do. And I guess we get a new character although I also, when they did the Charlie thing, I was like, oh God, are they going to make Charlie that's what I thought when they were
make it Charlie. Oh, that would be great.
I mean, it would be amazing if
he's qualified. He's almost a college. He's almost graduated college.
They just start moving everybody around.
Wow.
Because it seemed like they were going to give it to Will for a little bit, right? I mean,
that's right. Yeah, he was suggested. Yeah. Our eternal foil, the evil Josh Molina, who hosts the other West Wing podcast.
The better one.
Too many Joshes in the world of West Wing, I say. I got that's it for me. You guys got any last words on this one before we
I just don't
for the hills?
Yeah,
I just don't like it, this show.
I
want to here's a text exchange between me and Dave last night. Dave Anthony sends me a thing. We were talking about something else entirely. He goes, also, fuck you for making me watch this show every week. And I wrote back, that reminds me, fuck you for making me watch this show every week.
I like there was the one, I think I was like, I'm looking through the notes that I took a few brief notes. I think we covered everything, but there was something where the congresswoman is like, the pork producers in my state of Iowa. And I was like, no one would ever say that. Like I would not be like, like the tenants in my state of California, or like I'm from Pennsylvania, so I'd be like the coal miners or the steel workers for my state of Pennsylvania. Like I just like it was such like an exposition thing. Like it kind of like felt a little painful. And then the other line that I thought was like kind of funny was like at some point they're like, well, Hamas will have to stand down first. I was like, where have I heard that shit before? Nothing new under the sun.
Nobody talks that way. Well, Shanti, thank you for coming on my podcast, The West Wing Thing.
No, thank you for having me twice.
In the state of California. In my state of California.
In our state of California.
That's right.
Vote now on the recall.
We appreciate it. Yeah, please, folks. I know we've done a terrible job of making a case for it, but God damn it. If you're in California, fucking go. You got to vote. You know what makes me crazy? Here's what makes me crazy. Let's go out on this. Because I'm in a good mood about a lot of things this week, even though Dave is doing his best to bring me down. What makes me crazy is I know all these people and we live in California, who were in the last election so revved up. All they could talk about for months is how they couldn't wait to vote Trump out. We're going to vote. Did you vote? I voted. Facebook was just like Facebook feed was just photo after photo. I voted. You better get out and vote. And God damn it, we better. You live in California, folks. I said on this show that I didn't really have to wrestle with a question of like Biden versus Trump because I live in California. I wrote in Bernie Sanders because honestly, it's an easy choice to make here. I like to think I do the same thing in another state, but I didn't have to face that choice because I live in California. If you are living in the state of California and acting like it mattered that you vote in the last presidential election, if you are that person, we got to get him out, we voted, and you're not more revved up about going out to vote against the fucking recall, you're doing it wrong. Because this one, your vote matters. This one, your vote actually matters. And God damn it, just go vote no.
Yeah, please. Please, God, vote no. I'm going to mail my ballot today. That reminds me.
I'm going to go do it in person. God damn it. Thanks. We'll be back next week. Dave, you want to sign off with anything depressing?
Just that you're wrong about everything.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. I will say the thing I've been most wrong about in my life was, and I will say I was drunk, was going, someone should do a podcast where they break down every episode of The West Wing and talk about shitty politics.
You should not drink tequila.
I should not drink tequila and hang out with you.
That's fair.
We will see you next week, folks. Thank you very much.
You need a shot of the wang, so come in and get your fix. We don't need no Delta, so go get your vax, 'cause tonight we're gonna crank our wangs to max. West Wing thing, it's a West Wing thing with Josh and Dave. West Wing thing, it's a West Wing thing with Josh and Dave. Wing thing. It's a West Wing thing with Josh and Dave. West Wing thing. It's a West Wing thing with Josh and Dave. West Wing thing. It's a West Wing thing. It's a West Wing thing. It's a West Wing thing. Jimmy Smith, because I don't think I'm ready for Jimmy Smith on the West Wing thing.
Special thanks to Brian Ciano, our free-floating agent of chaos, and our theme music is by Colin McCoy.
Yeah, it is.
A.K.A. Diesel Boots. Mm-hmm. Thank you for listening.